Today we are going to be discussing the reasons why I chose to buy the Lumix S5 in 2022. Now, a few months ago, I posted a video about why I purchased the S1H in 2022, and since then, I've actually sold the S1H and kind of did a trade for the S1H for the Lumix S5. Real quick, shout out to my boy Chris Flores from Chris Flores Media. He actually helped facilitate this trade. I sold him the S1H and he traded me the S5. And there was a weird transaction that took place, but shout out to Chris. Thanks for helping me facilitate this trade. And so with that, we are going to talk about the reasons why I chose the Lumix S5 in general, but we're also going to be addressing some reasons why I switched from the S1H to the S5 later on in the video. Now, I don't want this to be a super long video, so we're going to go ahead and dive into my reasons of why I chose the Lumix S5, starting first with full frame 5.9K B-RAW. Should I say any more? Like, this camera does allow you to produce almost 6K resolution in B-RAW for something that's sub $2,000. Now, keep in mind that does mean that you need to use it with the Blackmagic Video Assist or potentially the Atomos Ninja 5 if you want ProRes RAW, but I use Blackmagic RAW a lot, and so the fact that I can use it on the S5 as well as something like the Sigma FP is a really nice bonus. And so that's the first reason why I chose a Lumix S5 is because it does support 5.9K B-RAW. Now, another reason why I chose the S5 is actually one of the reasons I listed off for the S1H, and that's just simply from the fact that it offers features that cater to filmmakers more than other cameras on the market. Now, with the S1H, I mentioned things like anamorphic mode, which this does support as well, but there's a ton of features that Lumix offers in their cameras that cater to filmmakers. Now, one that I've been super impressed with lately, and it's a very small feature, so it's kind of one of those nuances that cater to filmmakers. If you notice on the mount, there is a small screw hole, and at first glance, it may mean nothing to a lot of people. But on further investigation, one thing that's really cool is Sigma offers with their MC31, which is their PL mount adapter for L mount, they offer the ability to screw in the adapter with that screw that's on the mount with the S5 and the S1H. One reason why you buy PL mount lenses, whether it's an anamorphic lens or just a general PL mount cine lens, is because you don't want a ton of play on the mount. And so this is one thing that caters to filmmakers that have PL mount lenses, because the PL mount is going to be very secure, and then screwing this PL adapter into the camera is actually making the L mount side of it more secure as well. And so that's just one of those small nuances that just tells me that Lumix is paying attention to what filmmakers want and those small nuances that come along with it. Now, the next reason why I chose the S5 is because of IBIS. I mentioned this again with the S1H, but this is such a game changer when you're doing more run and gun, handheld filmmaking. I do a lot of behind the scenes filmmaking, and I need those shots to be really steady, but I also like using longer focal lengths like 50 and 85 or even 100 millimeters, just so I can stay being a fly on the wall in those scenarios. And so having IBIS and being able to remain more minimalistic is just a really awesome bonus, having IBIS and a really good IBIS as well. No, I've been playing chicken with these lights. I haven't charged them in like 2 months. I should probably charge them. All right, so we're a light down, and I think this light has the same battery life. So we're gonna keep this going before this turns into a really dark video. So that being said, let's talk about the next feature of why I chose the S5, and that's from the simple fact of the price. You get a ton of stuff for under $2,000, and honestly, when it's on sale, a lot less than $2,000. And for me, I'd rather have my money tied up into the lenses that I'm using rather than camera bodies. And one thing I like about the FP and the S5 being similarly priced is I started to want to do more comparison videos of the S1H and the FP, but they're on very different price ranges. And so I felt like this was a better kind of level playing field when we're talking about price versus what you get for the camera. And so that being said, you will be seeing some S5 versus FP content coming to the channel here in the near future. So stay tuned for that. So that kind of goes into why I switched from the S1H to the S5. Now, going along the lines of why I switched from the S1H. The other reason is just size. It is very well known that the S1H is a little bit bigger of a camera, especially in comparison to the S5. And for what I'm making, a lot of content creation, especially what I'm using this camera for, is content creation rather than maybe filmmaking scenarios, because that's what I'm using the FP for. This does give me the ability to have a smaller and lighter package for those content creation scenarios. And so that's another reason why I switched from the S1H, was just the size of the camera. Now, the last reason why I switched from the S1H to the S5, I'll be honest, is a small, probably insignificant reason to most people. And that is the simple fact that it offers a 9:16 aspect ratio frame guide, which allows me to have frame guides for a vertical format, which I'm often delivering my BTS shoots in a vertical format because the person I'm delivering to is using them on TikTok or Instagram Reels. And so again, that's a small reason why I switched from the S1H, but again, probably the nail in the coffin that sealed the deal for me as far as switching from the S1H to the S5. So with all that said, let's talk about if you should be looking at the S5 in 2022. And honestly, I'm going to keep this brief. If it makes sense for your production and what you're using, if some of these reasons that I've listed off of why I picked the S5 makes sense for you, then you absolutely should look at the S5. But if you need things like autofocus, blazing fast autofocus, maybe don't look at the S5. But otherwise, if everything else about the S5 makes sense for you, if all the reasons I listed off, or maybe ones I didn't list off, make sense for you, and maybe you're looking at the S5 and some of the reasons I mentioned is that nail in the coffin for you, then I would absolutely check out the Lumix S5 in 2022, 2023, 2050. Maybe not 2050. It might be massively out of date at that point. So that's it for me. I hope it was helpful for you guys to see why I switched to Lumix S5, and if that helps you in your shopping journey or your decision-making journey. If you do have any more questions about this camera, let me know in the comments below. And as always, if you did enjoy the video, make sure to give it a like. And if you're digging the overall content from the channel, consider subscribing. As always, thank you for joining. Go and find your journey. Go embrace life. Peace.